Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux and Mike Beer here with the Daily Racing Forum. We're going to start with race number 9 this Saturday out at Santa Anita. It's the Unusual Heat Turf Classic, a really nice grass event here with a big field. Mile and an eighth is the distance. As we take a look at the slate here, 11 horses, Mike, and a little bit of everything. A lot of horses that maybe come off of decent performances, some on the turf, some on the dirt, and others that have some back class maybe to go back to.
Yeah, a couple of layoffs too. It does feel like a race that there's enough speed in here. I feel like some of the better horses to me actually feel like they're more closing types, particularly the two Mark Glad horses on the outside. But it seems like there might be enough pace to set them up.
As we look at the Time Forum US pace projections here for the Unusual Heat Turf Classic, a fast pace is projected. You talked about Mark Glatt, the horses towards the outside, the 10 and the 11 being more towards the back and maybe getting the benefit of speed horses such as the 4 Fast Buck, who we know has been in deeper waters than this race, but typically sprinting, whether it be at Del Mar or 6.5 on the downhill at Santa Anita. And even Jimmy Blue Jeans and On the Whim, they like to be forward.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Fast Buck goes, the distance is a huge question for him. He's certainly talented enough to win here. Who knows if he wants to go 9 furlongs? That's a major question. And then he sort of complicates things for I think the horse who's the other speed. That's the 3 Jimmy Blue Jeans, who, he's a dangerous horse, and he's got some races that would make him really tough. But he also wants to lead, and Fast Buck sort of hurts his chances there.
We'll kick it off here at the number 1. Keep moving on. This one for Tim Yakteen, a new face in the barn, comes out of races at Fresno, more recently at Pleasanton, and very consistent in those last 4. Has tried both the dirt and the turf. You just have to feel like this is a pretty big step up in class.
Yeah, he's one of the horses I felt like was just, kind of hard to make a case for. And he was very lightly raced, and he has won a couple of turf routes already. He did the last time he was on turf, he won a stakes race at Santa Rosa. He wasn't meeting horses like this, but he does handle the surface. He does get to race with Lasix on again here as he races on turf again. The last time he ran on turf, he didn't get to race with Lasix. So I don't know, man. It feels like a really tough spot for him, but it'd be a big price.
The number 2, On the Whim, is a stakes winner against California breds. We saw it at a 1.16 4 back, and more recently on the downhill at a sprint distance at Santa Anita. But I guess a little bit of a head scratcher last time out, Mike. He went off as the betting choice in terms of wagering. It took a lot of play in there. He got the same trip that he usually gets early on, and the pace wasn't that fast compared to some of the other races because he was stretching out, and he just flattened in the stretch.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing, I thought. I mean, overall, I did think his trip was a pretty good one. Did, sort of brush with a rival in the stretch there as he was trying to make a run. And I just didn't really feel like he kicked it in all that hard in there. So it's a little concerning. Obviously, I think he's better than that. And so he's a horse you could certainly give a chance to. But I really liked his win 2 starts back. I know it was a different kind of race down the hill, but I thought that performance was pretty strong.
When we looked at the Time Forum US pace projections, we saw Jimmy Blue Jeans has the potential here to be forward, and that's what we saw last time out. He technically lasted to the wire, Mike, but was still disqualified for causing some interference there. And in terms of his races, I mean, his best chances, to me at least, and curious to get your opinion, is if he is forward from the gate.
It just kind of looks like the kind of horse who really needs to be on the lead to be effective. I mean, if you can go way back on his past performances, and he did show that he could sort of sit off of another horse and still win. In fact, he has a race going this distance here at Santa Anita where he won sitting just off of another horse, but that was a long time ago. And now it just feels like he just wants to be on the lead every time. And again, I think he's a dangerous horse in here because his good race is going to make him really tough, but there's other speed for him to deal with. I think that complicates things.
As we talk about the speed that Jimmy Blue Jeans shows, also the 4 Fast Buck figures to be part of that pace scenario. I mean, he's a sprinter through and through until recently, Mike, where they tried him going long. Disappointed. Obviously, there's upside, I guess, second time going long, but to me, it just feels like because of his recent performances, this was sort of their next resort to try him going long, and so far, it didn't work out last time.
Yeah, it didn't. I mean, it's a real question how far this horse wants to go. I mean, I don't think you would necessarily want to be too disappointed in the race last time when they finally did stretch him out in a grade 2 race where he was probably just in over his head. I don't know if you agree with this, Ashley. You comment on this, the California flag too big. I mean, he does feel like a sprinter anyway. That was sort of his kind of a race. Didn't On the Whim just run better than he did 2 starts back?
I think so. I think he ran better, and I think there's upside with On the Whim. Yes, he disappointed last time out, but the fact that he's been able to win at 6.5 and he can go a 1.16 I think if you're trying to put them together in apples to apples, I would choose On the Whim over Fast Buck, but that's my opinion. I just have a lot of reservations about him going long. It just feels like in his sprint races this year, 5, 6.5, whether it be at Del Mar or Santa Anita, he really wasn't showing what he showed, say, in 2023. And maybe he's tailing off, and who knows? Maybe this was to try to get him back on track, but they still went very slow compared to his other races last time out, and he still just didn't have the stamina. So that's sort of my opinion on the 4 Fast Buck. As we move to the 5 Takes 3, we'll show a replay of one of his outings. Now, he's won his last 2 in a row, but the race 2 back was on the grass at Del Mar. I thought this was a really good performance. I know he's a little soft on the Beyer figures, but I think if you're looking for a sneaky horse underneath in the exotics, maybe this, a horse like Takes 3 based on his trips and his running style, I think he's worth a little bit of a look.
Yeah, we're gonna agree on this horse. I definitely want to use him at a price in here. Listen, to me, his last 2 races are the 2 best he's ever run, and he's obviously going to have to improve again against this field. But I do think he can get the right kind of a trip. That replay we just watched, I mean, he was blocked in the stretch there. That horse that he outfinished there easily could have beaten him. But Take 3 was just better once he got clear. Even 2 back, I did not really care for the trip. He finished behind another of the horses who's back in this field. Didn't really care for the trip Takes 3 got that day, and I thought he ran a very good race.
Yeah, I think he's sneaky. He's 4 years old compared to some others in this field who are a little bit maybe saltier and seasoned. But as of late, his last maybe 5 performances, he's really done well. Next up on the field is the 6 Barely Functional. This one out of the Antonio Garcia barn. A winner last time out. It was on the dirt, though. And I go down the page, and it just seems like so many in this field have beaten him time and time again.
That's what I didn't like about him either. I mean, listen, he's pretty consistent, and he's not the kind of horse. It's not like when he runs against these horses, it's like he just can't compete with them. He's around it. He's getting pieces every once in a while. Trips feel like they're really important to this horse. So he's not, to me, I think he's going to be a long shot in here, and he's not an impossible long shot to me. You can't like them all, Ashley. I kind of prefer other horses.
The 7 We Can up next in the field, a horse that was doing pretty well out at Golden Gate, some solid synthetic performances, now made the way to sort of Southern California. Most recently was second behind Takes 3 on the dirt. And prior to that, seemed to have some issues when getting out of the state bred ranks. Took that step up from the race at Santa Anita to Del Mar, and just, was, I guess, rolling late, but not in the same way that he was 3 starts back. Maybe, though, that was kind of attributed to the slower pace. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit of maybe not a great trip either. 2 starts back, the winner was a big long shot there. This horse he had a little trouble getting clear in the stretch, especially when he was trying to sort of angle to the outside. He just had a horse right alongside him, so I don't think he ever really got clear. I thought that performance was okay. 3 back, I did think he ran well in there. I mean, he was a huge price. Things ultimately really worked out for him, and he got through on the inside. Well, we already talked about Takes 3 had to go really wide in there, and this horse did get a rail run. But it's not like he had a perfect trip in there. I mean, he spent a lot of time in traffic before he got clear. And then I thought he really ran. This is another horse who feels like he's getting better at the right time.
The 8 Colinga Road, this one for Carla Gaines and Harris Farms, just 1 for 10 locally at Santa Anita on the grass. And you kind of go through his past performances. Mike, he seems like a horse that always tries to show up. I thought he ran really well actually on the dirt last time out to be defeated in the end by Lamas. But it's just that his wins are so far and few between, and it's just hard for me to get a read on him. I feel like he makes kind of sort of that one run, and then he's just flat in probably the final 16th of a mile.
Yeah, I think you said it all there. I kind of agree with all that stuff. I thought it was a little bit hard to trust in here. I do think there's a good trip coming for this horse. I think he's got the right kind of running style, especially if this pace is fast, where he could probably just land mid-pack. And I think it is at least worth pointing out that he won this race last year. I don't think he was necessarily best in there, but he did win this race last year with a competitive figure.
We move on to the number 9 in here, None Above the Law, a horse that was claimed earlier in 2024 for $50,000. Has tried the stakes effort since then. The one win, though, came on the dirt against stakes competition. And for me, I thought the California flag was okay, but then we're going to a 6.5 furlong race. And more recently, they tried him at 1.5 miles. And I don't think he wants to go that far, but as of late, I'm not even sure he wants to go 1.125 miles.
Yeah, I don't know. He's the horse he's going to need a real trip. I just want to correct that Coalinga Road actually won this race 2 years ago, not last year. He got started a little bit later, but either way, we know that he can get the distance. None Above the Law, he just doesn't have any speed. And I'm not sure he's the best closer in this race either. I mean, I don't care about his last race. He was never going to beat those horses going 1.5 miles. I'm not going to hold that race against him, but I just wonder if things can really work out well enough for him in here, because he needs pace, which he should get, but I'm not sure he's the best closer.
And he was rolling in the California Dream, in which we mentioned earlier. It was won by On the Whim. The number 10, Old Pal, up next, one of two for Mark Glatton here. We'll take a look at one of his most recent performances at Del Mar, going a mile, and kind of just looking at the trip that he gets in here. I don't think things were necessarily easy for him. He does run into some traffic. You saw that he tried to angle out. He couldn't. He tries to dip to the inside at this point, and he's still grinding away. He ends up third in here, and right about there is where he hits his best stride. I thought this was a decent performance overall.
Me too. Just it felt like maybe he was a little bit unlucky there. Couldn't get clear until it was way too late. But that's what you get with Old Pal because he doesn't have any speed at all. He's going to be last, and he's going to have to try to work his way through some traffic, be that either trying to come through inside and get clear or go all the way around these horses and go wide. And so, that's what you're dealing with this horse. His overall form is rock solid. This race might set up really well for him. I think he's a major player in here. I just wouldn't go too short. We'll see how they bet the race, actually. I wouldn't go too short on this horse.
Now his stablemate, sort of similar, likes to close from off of it, but the main thing with Alligato from post 11, we haven't seen him since April. And I did pull a replay here, Mike, to look at the effort two back, where he ends up winning, gets his third lifetime win. And I thought it was a really good effort. I think when you look at the stretch run here, he has some work to do, and he's able to sort of throw down late and really close nicely here to get the job done. He does disappoint, though, in his following start, and maybe it was the 3 weeks rest. Obviously, he's been on the shelf since that one.
Yeah, the layoff, I guess, is a little bit of a concern. Mark Glatt does, if you look him up in the formulator, he does really have good numbers off of long layoffs. I'm with you. That performance I really liked, but that was a good one. He had no chance in his most recent start. He was on short rest.
Mhm.
There was no pace in front of him at all, but he was still trying at the end. He's another horse. I guess the running style is a little problematic because he doesn't have a lot of speed. But I don't look at him as a dead one run closer, so maybe he can get a little bit of a better trip. He's another one. He's running this race the last 3 years. He's run well in it every single time. He won it once. He was right there at the end, and the other two, mile and eighth, is no problem for this horse.
Very curious as we move to top pick time. I felt like there were 4 or 5 horses, maybe even 6, that we liked. It's a pretty wide open betting event. And you end up on the outside runner Alligato here, as we mentioned, coming off the layoff. But that effort we showed two back was quite impressive.
Yeah, I like his overall form. The post is no bargain for him, and he doesn't win that often, which I don't love. But I just kind of felt like maybe he'd be an okay price in here off the layoff. And I don't want a short price in this race, actually. I'm going to take him on top. We both got takes 3 to 5 in there. I like him a little bit more than you do, but he's the price horse that I want to try to get in there.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing with Takes Three. What is the price going to be? I think if we're getting solid double digits, to me, he's very intriguing. And sure, he's not as experienced as others in here, but his last couple, he's been really solid. So we agree with him as underneath. We also both use the 10, the stablemate to Alligato. But for me, I went with On the Whim. And typically, I'll be honest, I don't love horses that should have run better last time out. But I just wonder, kind of coming off of the downhill performance, stretching back out, if there is some upside here for an improved performance. And looking at him prior to that, his 2-turn trips at Santa Anita, they've been pretty good. Even the one that we saw at Del Mar, 3 back. So curious to see how they'll bet him. I think he'll take a fair bit of respect here in the Unusual Heat Turf Classic. 11-5, 10-7 for Mike, 2-10, 11-5 for me. It's race number 9 at Santa Anita this Saturday. Good luck.